Jeff Nichols, strength and conditioning coach, owner, SEAL Team 6 operator. A profound conversation about love, violence, and kindness, the importance of self-awareness after the life of a Navy SEAL. I'm thrilled to bring you the latest episode of the Straight Talk Mind and Muscle podcast, where I had the honor of chatting with Jeff, a former Navy SEAL and DevGru operator, and the founder of Performance First, a revolutionary training complex in Virginia Beach. This conversation was packed with insights, lessons, and some truly eye-opening moments. In fact, it was one of the most powerful shows I've ever had the chance to record. The key takeaways: Performance First philosophy. Focus on optimal performance and comprehensive support for high-demand roles. The need for better recovery and physical preparation within the special operations community. Effective communication. The importance of asking for help and the misconception that taking direction equates to good communication. Personal stories highlighting the significance of genuine care and support. Coaching and mentorship. Jeff's evolution from a rigid teaching style to a more compassionate and individualized approach. The balance between discipline and understanding individual learning styles. And this was the biggies. Transitioning from military to civilian life. The isolation and need for new relationships post-military. The emotional impact of losing comrades and the societal perception of military service. Challenges and realities. Dispelling the romanticized notion of Navy SEAL life. It's about hard work, sacrifice, and overcoming fears. The daily life of a Navy SEAL, including rigorous training and extensive time away from home. The making of a Navy SEAL is not just about physical strength. Imagination and creativity and a strong will are crucial. The importance of understanding the why behind actions and excelling in areas of passion. The honor, courage, and sacrifice involved in being a Navy SEAL. And curiosities and insights. There was Jeff's phobia. Despite hundreds of skydives, Jeff has a real phobia of ladders due to past experiences. The role of mentors, the transformative power of effective mentorship, and the impact of individuals like Dr. Kirk Parsley. And social media presence, Jeff's active engagement on Instagram at JeffCSCS, and the philosophy behind his coaching efforts. This episode is a treasure trove of wisdom, especially if you're interested in the mental and emotional aspects of elite military training, the transition to civilian life, and the art of effective coaching. Jeff's openness and vulnerability provides a deep and insightful perspective on the complexities of military service and the journey of self-discovery. Tune in to hear more about Jeff's incredible journey and the lessons he's learned along the way. Trust me, you don't want to miss this one. You can find Jeff at the show notes below. Click on those links. If you're listening, it's www.performancefirst.us.com. And on Insta, as I said before, JeffCSCS. Thanks for watching. I'm Damien Porter, former New Zealand Special Forces operator, subject matter expert from hownotodie.com.au. And you're listening to my Straight Talk Mind and Muscle podcast, sponsored by these guys, mystate.com, the ultimate daily formula for optimum hormone health, stress management, energy, and performance. 100% natural and clinically proven ingredients. It provides everything you need to raise your game in a convenient, gut-friendly capsule. Links for my former shows are in the show notes below. Thanks for watching. And we're live. Welcome to the Straight Talk Mind and Muscle podcast. Welcome to my guest all the way from Virginia Beach and an awesome place, Performance First, Jeff Nichols.
I appreciate you having me, Damien. Yeah, like it's the hardest thing is marrying up our time difference, but because it's I think tomorrow for you already.
Yeah, it really is. It's about 5 a.m. over here. And I was talking to someone just the other day about how great is connection, that we can actually connect around the world, get to know someone. And in our line of work, post leaving those sort of jobs, you lose that connection. So this is actually a great part of the modern world. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, no, you're right. Let's say the first 6, 7, 8 years, you're doing the work, but you're really fostering relationships you don't realize you have. And then when you get out, it's not just that they're dormant. I think folks like us are pretty driven or like focused or achievement focused. So you're gonna like you realize you actually have to form new relationships entirely, even if you're staying in contact. So I think that if someone had kind of given me that at first to be like, hey man, you're not actually that alone. You're alone. You feel more alone because you're always surrounded by people. Now you're not. So part of the transition they forget to mention.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes on there. We'll unpack a ton of that because you're literally, I don't know if you're born a teacher, but you're a great teacher and leader. I've watched some of your things there on the socials. And for those that don't know, we've done the show notes before this, literally before this interview, they've heard the narrator's show notes. But you're a former Navy SEAL, you run Performance First, um, which is brilliant. We're going to talk to that. But I had two specific questions I thought would be great for those people that really don't know much about the SEALs or people that are wondering about special forces and so on. And I wanted to kick it off with, what does it take to become a Navy SEAL?
Oh yeah, it's interesting. I guess it all depends on what mood I'm in, I suppose. But or any of us really, where you kind of catch us. But first, thank you. That's super kind of you. Um, I think if Christ was his, wanted to be called teacher, I figure that's a pretty good place to start with. Whatever you believe in your beliefs, Christianity, just a good human being wanted to be called teacher. So thank you for
Yep,
that.
you're welcome.
But what does it take, man? I could answer kind of the cliche way and whatnot, but I'll just kind of, this is totally unscripted. I think that now that I was that, and now that our business kind of sees a lot of those, because when I went in and joined the Navy, I was 22 years old,
Hmm.
and that fire, that 22-year-old young man, that kid, I guess, that's essentially who my wife and I train in service, and so I see so much of them in me now, and so now that you ask that with a totally different perspective other than just the operator, man, the first thing that I noticed with everyone, they have an immense imagination and sense of creativity, and it gives people, it allows them to listen to that calling. That's one of the first things I think is super cool about that. And it's not that we have to label it and like my calling is, no, it's like just be still and listen, man. Like these guys are being compelled to go do something beautiful. So I noticed that there's a tremendous amount of will. Like it's not that there's stubbornness, but there's just this like, I just got to go do it. I can't sit still. And it's like, maybe we label it as ADD or whatnot, but they don't function well in confined spaces for too long.
Which is
Unless there's a
ironic being
really,
in the Navy.
right, unless there's a good activity, right? And weight training happens to be a fantastic activity, which you're like, these people, you said these people had ADD, but they're just really listening well. It's just again, and knowing the men in the environment. I think another piece is that's super important, I think, is that it's not that they question authority. It's just they actually really do want to know why.
Mm,
They're going to keep asking you why until they find a teacher that's going to give them that why and help them realize that what they're striving to be can be achieved. And I think that that's there's always that next step, that next do, and I think that that's a big part of it. And I think to label it in any other way, like socioeconomic and things like that, man, yes, I think that there's definitely some trends to that, but if you've been in the community long enough, you just find a bunch of outliers
yeah.
that get along pretty good. I think so. That's there. I think, and the people are by and large highly intelligent. Not saying like smart. Like I'm a terrible speller, man. I'm terrible. But I know math, and I certain other things. I really, if I enjoy it, what I find is if these men, these young men and women, the special operations, if they find something they really enjoy, they are exceptional at it. Yeah, given enough time, they're get real good at it. So I could keep going on and on, but those are kind of what my heart tell me to say right now.
Yeah, thank you. And it's I've interviewed a lot of veterans on here, which has been great. It's not just a veterans show, scientists, coaches, world record holders, all those things. But I realized going into this, I've never sort of asked that question because it's something that we all take for granted as operators, as former operators. And considering what you do, which is showing, teaching, leading, training people to become SEALs, I thought it was a perfect person to ask and way to kick this off.
Yeah, and in hindsight, like I really, man, I'm so lucky. I've had from my sporting life of the sports I love and grew up with, through the faculty, the small town. I was surrounded by a bunch of people that actually had my best interest in mind, and I was this kid of ton of energy that just they were able to focus me in a way that was really positive. So I think I find a lot of that in guys too. They come from these places that the outside observer might see like they're come from a broken place or confused, but just somebody picked them up, their coaches, professors, whatever it may be. And I think that that's one of the beautiful draws of the special operations community, and it's universal worldwide, is that the the community, and by and large, that these young men and women are looking for, they find it.
Yeah.
And I think that becomes where the problem is too, is then once you find it, you're like, wow, like, okay, there's a different level of mentorship at that point. That's where mine kind of went off the rails, truthfully. But now I'm like thankful it did. Like my had an awesome career, made some great choices, made some bad ones, and now I can honestly say 10 years later, 50, there's a lot more me smiling now about my past than I was frowning in the past, before. So I don't mind reminiscing about it too much anymore. It's kind of fond.
Yeah, there's a bit to unpack there, Jeff. I'm going to unpack a little bit more in your first answer. You talked about that calling, and one former SEAL that also does this sort of thing, physical training teaching guys how to become SEALs, is Hosea Kaufman. His the name of the business is The Warrior Calling. So really interesting. You're literally both saying that same uh, thing there. Um, and then you talked about highly intelligent. We talked just before about Dr. Kirk Parsley, former Navy SEAL, and he's been on the show many times. I love his story. He was literally told by his high school teacher, "You're not going to be anything. You're going to be useless." And he dropped out of high school. And for the listeners there, this guy went on to join the Navy, become a SEAL, and then left the SEALs, became a doctor. Um, so yeah, it's that calling inside you. And funnily enough, I read something just the other day about it from a top psychologist, and the two things that help neuroplasticity, and that's weird. The two things that help neuroplasticity is exercise. So we all do exercise because we're all not right in the head as
Right.
operators. But then the second one is pure focus. If you can focus on one thing to the exclusion of all other things, is what we need to do in our training and then in our job itself, that's massive neuroplasticity. So, someone like Kirk goes in, he's obviously intelligent inside his brain, but the high school teacher, air quotes, told him he'd amount to nothing. And then he was actually, he was that raw sort of clay that got molded by himself, not by someone else. And yeah, he would have had mentors, like you said, to then become sort of his best version and become a highly intelligent doctor. It's really intriguing.
Yeah, I kind of I mean this with I'm not sure why I believe this, but my intuition tells me that every human, honestly, like in many cases, I can't say that, that guy, you've probably seen despair, right? In your life, you've seen, like, even in your own country, you have eyes to see that. And I've seen that, not to be like, oh, poor Jeff, but you go, there are many times in my life where if it hadn't been for the environment I grew up in, I probably would have ended up gotten in deep trouble, like real trouble, not just country, small town trouble, like I got in, but real trouble. And for whatever reason, God saw fit for me to be in an environment, and I was able to surpass those moments, and they were allowed me to evolve and make decisions and continue to stay in an environment that fostered better behavior. And I just realized that so many people have that opportunity, and that's what I said. Like, even to Dr. Parsley's point, like that moment of trauma, those moments of trauma, and that's the one that he's been able to select and go, that was monumental in my my personal ideology of not giving up, or whatever
Yes.
you want to know.
Yes.
I think that I have those moments. I'm certain you do. And I think that that's the message, is like the world, humans are awesome. And our environment a lot of times dictates that self-worth, good or bad. I think we as veterans and we as operators, that's the message that we most loudly need to pronounce to everyone, is that we are no different than anyone else. We just, for some reason, someone saw fit for us to, someone that loved us so much saw fit for us to, I don't know, evolve past those moments. And then some do it later in life. And maybe that's, again, we like the people that you interface with, those people are going to continue to evolve, because you're just who you are and you're doing what you're doing, and what you're going to do is evolve because you're just impacting people. And my impact just happened to intersect with my lovely wife, and she happened to be really good at the things I'm not patient at, and so many other complementary things. But now I get to affect a population that it didn't make sense. But one of my first master chief said to me, I got overheard a conversation with somebody also love and adore, and he said to somebody that was being medically discharged, he said, because if you really want to do good for the community in a quick manner, he's like, you're probably best going to do that on the outside. And I just remember hearing that, didn't really register, but boy, man, 20 plus years later, I heard that in Ramadi, Iraq in like 2005. And now it's like 2024. I'm like, whoa, that's profound. That's wisdom. So I think
Yeah.
that that's kind of where, yes, that's kind of where I sit on that. I never thought that. I was very much of the volition at some point in my life, not too distant from now. That I was like, I don't give a damn what people think. I run no one. Like, and I had the angst to back that up, but now I kind of changed my tune on that, because um, I don't know, circumstance. If you're not self-evolving, I figure what's the point. So that's
It's an,
that.
it's really interesting you said, that Master Chief said that almost 20 years ago. Um, and when you're in the role, you can't see those sort of things. And Dan Cooper also spoke to it, SASR operator, um, and now he's a brilliant,
PhD.
yeah, brilliant mind coach. And he said the same thing. He said, in the young days, you'd hold all the information, all those little secrets tight. You wouldn't tell anyone else because you wanted to be the best. You sort of climb over people in a way to get to the top because we had the competitive drive. But now, in this part of our life, we're just spewing information out. And that's what I saw in you, Jeff. And you probably wouldn't see this because God, I try not to watch my own videos myself. But when you put out your videos, you can see that wisdom and that wanting to impart that knowledge on, um, which reminded me. And literally, I watched one video this morning just to get back on net with you, and you were talking through your all the memorials you had, the Bud's helmet, the flag you carried on missions, and so on, and it was just like a what we call a sergeant major, and it's probably the same with Master Chief with a rank. What an actual nice sergeant major who's been there, done it, but he's not angry. He's just trying to show all those young people and raise them up. Yeah, it was really cool to see. And you just said the same thing.
I respectfully, it's interesting. I had a real hard time appreciating subjectivity. I only really, and it's a lot of my upbringing. Not my. I grew up in an amazing family, and my mom and dad were, God Almighty, they're amazing. Um, but for whatever reason, I, as an athlete, attached myself to coaches that were that sort of do what needs to be done. Don't ask questions. They were good teachers, but they said, "Hey, I'm going to show. I don't have time to show you 50 times. There's other athletes, but I'm going to show you right. I'm going to make sure you're doing it right. And I'm going to come back and check in on you, and that's it. Like, you got to go do this, man." And so, like, I really, that's where my IQ sits. My ability to learn quickly. I'm good at that, especially things I like.
Yeah.
But that's where my skill, I guess, kind of comes into and it combined with my athleticism. But I kind of, I get to I get to share this with people by, I guess, kind of by example still.
Mm.
And I think that, I don't know, um you know, I'm always kind of trying to just look back and see what I could do a little bit better. But I never, there's just a real point in time where, man, I just did not respect anyone that couldn't get it done fast. And I realized that the things now as a coach that make me a good coach, not just a guy with a lot of knowledge, is that I actually do understand now that there has to be a connection. There has to be, right, as a coach, not so much in the military setting where there's directives and stuff's got to get done. This is like, I think that I don't think that needs a change inside. I don't, but not many people learn the way I do. Like, just I was born for the military. That's how
Yeah.
I was raised. Coaches were like that. That's how I learned. And I got in the military. I'm like, this is easy. Just all I have to do is be on time. That's it. And some people aren't like that. And so when people come into our facility, yes, I want some real rigid objectivity when it comes to certain aspects of learning. But I have to now, now the trick is, like, I kind of, my wife is lovely at this, but I kind of want to find out how that person learns, because that's the
Yeah.
trick. Is, like, I figure out that, because I've been taught formally on how to interrogate human beings and make them very uncomfortable. So that flip side is like, how do I make someone that's already uncomfortable because they're like, I'm at this training facility, I'm under this guise of somebody I respect and appreciate and coach. I paid money to go do this. Am I doing it right? My future's on the line, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I can put myself in their shoes, because I was like, I was there too, but I didn't have a mentor. I mean, not in the military sense, but in coach's sense. I only could draw from good coaches, and I had some amazing, and one in particular, amazing coach that really was like a cornerstone for my success. But again, long-winded, is like, that's one of the big things, is never respected subjectivity. And now with love and patience, kindness, you got to really expand on that. And you can expand all that subjective goodness without losing any of that objective sort of presence that you can keep for an audience or a child or your wife or whatever it may be. It's like, you're not going to lose that if the Incredible Hulk is just a light switch away, only if you have control of the subjective side of you, the compassionate side of you, because otherwise the Hulk's out of control. So that's been the real challenge. Is coaching is where I practice being, like, because I'm good on a range, man. I can teach somebody on a gun, and that's a different environment, and
Yeah.
I'm good at that. But I can't teach somebody how to barbell back squat like I do. Technically, you can, like in a heavy weapon setting, right? Like, hey, there's safety, and we're gonna yell and scream because we have earphones on, right? In the gym, my rule is this: if I have to consistently yell to get your attention, we don't coach you. Like, you need to stop, make eye contact, and we're gonna talk this thing through of how to do this. I don't need to, like, hey, pay attention. That's what I mean. I'm like, stop. Like, that's one of the things the military is amazing. When stuff needed to get taught, stuff stopped.
Yeah. And it's so different than this setting that you're in, Jeff. It's funny you said that about, I can't remember the word you used of what you need. You obviously use subjectivity, but uh, years ago, I was I was one of the first personal trainers in the world, and we're talking decades ago. And I was, national bodybuilding champion and so on. So ego guy, young guy, thought I was knew it all. And I would look over at some of the other trainers that were not champions in the field. They'd done short courses and things. And I remember one of these trainers she was quite beautiful, I'd suggest, but in my mind, a classic blonde bimbo in the gym, but she's a trainer, and her clients loved her. But in my mind, she knew nothing. And for the listeners, I mean this, it was, my ego was there, and obviously I've hopefully grown a fair bit from then. But I was looking over at her, and why do these people even listen to her? She knows nothing. They're all doing it wrong. And then a few years later, there was a study came out that showed the number one predictor of success for weight loss in a client. So, studies have to focus on one thing, but you can extrapolate this out. The number one predictor of success for a long-term weight loss in a client was rapport. It wasn't skill. It wasn't the hundreds of things anybody would answer when asked them that question. Discipline, all these things. It's rapport with the coach, because it was
Yeah.
again what the study was
It
on.
builds the consistency, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the only time you're consistent is someone that you begin to trust. And the
Yes.
point of weakness or vulnerability, and a lot of times fitness, whatever it may be, is like that's the guys that are going down the path as special forces, wherever. Like, yeah, you, and that same sort of fear gets extrapolated and compiled because they're like, understandably, they're like, this is my life, this is a dream, this is all. Now it's like I didn't want to be a Navy SEAL as a child. I wanted to be the catcher for the New York Yankees, like truthfully, right? And I did that. That's hand to God. That is what my goal was. And when the work ethic that I built towards that, and swimming as well. Swimming, I was quite a good swimmer, just too short. Um, but all of that work seemed for naught when it came to end. And now in hindsight, you're like, oh, that fire was that was the kindling for the fire.
Yeah.
And then the fire goes out, I thought, when I left the command. It's like, oh no, that's where I'm at now. And I'm finally like, oh, okay, wisdom, right? Takes some experience, takes a lot of getting knocked down a bit, right? The cliche, it's like that's the difference between me and people that aspire to be whatever. It's I just had 20 years to get punched in the face and learn from it. So it's like we also say, hey, don't necessarily. I see what you're saying. You're trying to want to be a Navy SEAL, this, that, and it's like, but hey, in the physical training route of doing that, let's also learn the lessons. Let's
Yeah.
learn the other lessons, like the behavior lessons, right? So, like, let's not. You don't need to be covered in tattoos and Velcro and on like all this. Like, be your own you. Like, and now, like that's where fortunately, I've always stood with my son. He is not me, thank God. I mean, in so many ways, like he is, but like he's his own person. I'm so thankful for that.
You mentioned three words there before that sort of paragraph was love, patience, and kindness. And you don't expect those words to come out of a Navy SEAL's mouth. You don't expect to come out of a guy's mouth that's been to war. But you did literally on the flip side talk about the Incredible Hulk can come out. Um, it's it's just such an interesting take on things on this side of our life, in this stage of our life, of what it takes to grow from being that operator. But in reality, when we were operators, we still had those things inside us: love, patience, kindness, for our teammates, and it just needed to grow. But I asked you, what does it take to become a Navy SEAL? And then my list here, one of them has got to be part of that: love, patience, and kindness.
It
Somewhere
is.
in there.
Let me explain it to you if I may, because I didn't
Yes.
know that after. This is for my wife. Like, so my wife, um, one of my salvations for my life is meditation, and that's what my wife formally teaches. She's formally taught that, like, the people that I love and revere that brought a lot of them brought meditation to the West. Some of those were her teachers, and I lived with an expert in it,
Wow.
right? And so hopefully I can articulate this, but this is very Japanese and Zen for me. That's where I'm all over the place with my spirituality, but it really always comes back down to love for me. And I was sitting one day and I was pondering this with my wife essentially, and we had some really beautiful flowers in the garden, right? And you can see them through the window, and she's like, "Look at the flower." I'm like, "Yeah, okay." So she goes, "Look at it. Like, what color is it? Like, what do you see?" I'm like, "Pink and white." And like, "No, keep like deeper. Look." And I'm like, "Black." And she's like, "Exactly." She's like, "One cannot exist without the other." She goes, "I've never met anyone that has exhibited as much violence that you have." So, but I've also never exhibited someone that has the other side of it. You can't have one without the other. Just because you're not
Wow.
able to express it, one or the other, doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Because that is the infinite, that's the ellipse, that's God, that's creation. You cannot have one without the other. And we are just extremes of that ellipse that just happen to be special operators. That's it. And
Wow.
and
That
it's
is stunning.
a long time to understand that, but that's the truth. Like, and it is true, man. Because here's the deal, right? With respect to you, Damon, is your mother or father still living?
Yeah, my dad is, yes.
Do you have a good relationship with him?
Yeah, way better than when I was young.
Even to say this, just rant like you do you love your father?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Prove it. Prove it. Right? That's the point. The point is it's true. You don't have to do anything other than know that that's your truth. That's
right.
it. That's the point. Is that the people that go do the things that we did or I did, you did them out of love for yourself, man. Like you, for some part of you was willing to sacrifice the thing that most people can't shudder. The thing is give up life, but you did it. You did it for you. You proved it for you. That's the point. Is you can't go do that if you don't have love.
Wow. Wow. Man, I was going to touch on Catherine. You know, you said your wife, and you said, but more importantly, you said she's almost the opposite of you because, you know, even on
She's
your,
fire, believe me, she's fire. But yeah, she is the calm. She's
yeah,
my calm, 100%.
it's like it's brilliant. On every you know, you've got the website and we've got the backgrounds and things, but I always want to try and sync things, and I always throw off I always print off the Instagram, I can't see it there, but the
I
Instagram
got you.
profile,
Yeah.
you know, and first up is Tier 1 military physical prep and training. That's literally kind of you. But there's Catherine, you know, the biz manager, because we're operators, not business guys, and
How bad?
meditate.
Bad
And
at business, bad at spelling. Yes.
exactly, and meditation. I thought, wow, this is going to be intriguing. Um, I'm going to ask the next question. I only had two lined up for the show because we've, I guess, summed up what it takes to become a Navy SEAL, and there's a lot more for sure. But a question again that I have not asked anybody is, and also SEALs are, a SEAL is just so different. You know, you got SAS, you got Delta, you got Special Forces, all those things. They're all just words and titles, but a SEAL seems to be a bit different. And you know, especially with the media and uh, all the things going on, it's got a different connotation. You know, from Dick Marcinko, Vietnam days, and so on. But I want to ask you the question: what is it like being a Navy SEAL? And the reason I ask that question for context is because, you know, maybe the 17-year-old has seen you know, that 17-year-old Kirk Parsley right now, high school dropout,
Right.
has seen an Instagram video of you in a place in Virginia Beach. Or maybe it's seen Hosea's website on the other side of the country. But what is it like being a Navy SEAL?
Yeah, and that's like that. That's an interesting thing because I get like I get the question. I'm not currently one, but I get the
Mm,
question. The point is, it's always is not to avoid that. I think the simple way is this, and this is man. There's a million ways I can answer this, but like I think that this is the right way to go about doing it. And again, I'm going to steal from my wife because she pointed this out to me. I grew up having tremendous reverence for a certain baseball player growing up. And I had a bit of it took me a bit of an adjustment to get out of the Navy. Like I wasn't super fond of my conversations about my service, we'll say. And it's not that I want to talk about those, and I still don't. But the point is that if I had met my childhood hero, and I almost have a few times, man, a couple of them I have, a couple I could post one today. My childhood hero, the catcher, I just was one of my heroes. And I got to sit next to him as he managed 9 inning game. And so, what if I had met? What if I? My wife's like, what if you had met your childhood hero that day? Because he was managing for the Marlins that day, and I just visited spring training. I didn't get to see him. And what if you had walked up to him and you were like, "Hey man, it's so amazing to meet you." It was like when you were playing for the Yankees, and he just turned around and goes like, "Screw the Yankees, they suck," and just totally boo boo your experience.
yeah,
Because I've done that to people. Because I just really couldn't be, and they didn't understand. Like, and I hadn't learned the proper body language and language and appreciation of the grace that they were offering me. I hadn't learned that yet. But my point is this: what's it like to be a Navy SEAL? Especially because it's something I aspired to be after my baseball time came to an end. I really, really, my purpose came out. Another purpose in my life came out, and I lived it. I lived it. Um, I lived the fun stuff, and I lived the other side that a little bit darker stuff. I've taken many lives, many will count, like say a lot, few, whatever, but more than I've got fingers and toes. And that's not a point of adulation for me, but it's a point of realization that with being a hero or with being a catcher, with playing even better, man, who who wouldn't want
Wow.
to play for the Old Ones, right? Who wouldn't? So it's that. I got to play on the play and work with the most brilliant, intelligent, courageous human beings that have ever walked this planet in our modern military. And I got to stand on the shoulders of heroes. I got to watch heroes. That was my life, man. I got to witness heroic behavior on a daily basis by men of real honor and courage. That's what I got to witness. I got to feel that. I got to be that. And I got to do that for 11 years. And for whatever reason, for whatever reason, the world is certainly not perfect. It's just, I think we all know it's not by now. The world is really tied up, like you mentioned in the front part of this. We're really connected, and sometimes that connection can be a little bit overwhelming. But good men and good women all across this world continue to go to their military recruiters because they're called to serve. And I got to serve. I also got to bury some friends,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it was worth it. But it was worth it. Not to witness that sense of despair, but to feel that real sense of reverence for that grace.
Yeah.
So that's what you get. You get to live it. Everything you want, you get to live. Everything, and it's all in your hands, man. Because the world that you will serve will give it to you. Everything you're looking for, the good and the bad.
Jeff, thank you so much for being incredibly open about that. And that part there, that segment is absolutely stunning because it showed with your physiological and emotional response there how difficult it is to leave that behind because it's such a powerful connection to self, connection to your teammates, connection to the service you are all doing communally, and then to literally, 6 months later, not be doing that because you're not doing that, air quotes job anymore. I have talked a lot about transitioning out of the military into a different career path and different person, both with myself and on shows and with many of the guests I'm on, lucky enough to have on. But I've never, and I don't say this like, never seen it shown how you just did. And for anybody watching, that's why it's so tough for the person leaving that role to reintegrate. You said years. I think I've got it 8 or 9 in my head, where you went from, frowning to actually being able to look back on your time with more smiles than frowns, to paraphrase what you said. But yeah, it's a deep thing, man. And you're born to serve. And suddenly, if you're, I think, there was a couple of SBS guys, and they go to office roles afterwards, and literally it's not mind numbing for them. It's heart numbing. There's no service there, and I couldn't imagine what it'd be like not to be in that role. I was lucky enough to go into policing and then into firefighting, so there's still a form of service. But gosh, Jeff, thank you so much for sharing that reality check for us as well.
Yeah, no, and it's not like it. That's it's something that like over the years, I really mean that. It's hard for someone to believe.
Mm,
So now I can look back because I have like sit behind me. Then I have a folder with all the I guess all the funeral basic announcements for all the guys.
mm.
And it's not now at the time you're like you keep them because it's you're supposed to. And now like when you look at it and you go, man, like Nobody looks back at their yearbook of their office job and goes, man, look at all these people from all these cubicles that died going to their cubicle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I don't mean, and listen, my father drove a semi for 41 years.
Yep.
Never complained, thankless job, never made more than $37,000 a year. Never. And like, I don't not respect that. Like the trash folks, the plumbers, like I listen, like I don't have those skills. I was placed on this earth to do other things. And so I don't have any despair for anyone's job. I think that society is just, some of us get put on a pedestal, and all of us, it's like if we don't really have a sense of humility, man, like we're really not helping.
Yeah.
I think it's like, I don't mean, I quote a whole bunch of things, but I tend to quote the Bible more as like, I just don't want to be built on, I don't want my foundation built on something that's not stable. I don't want to build on sand, and I feel like sometimes we do that. Like our identity, our ideologies, they can be foundational for some people because they'll hold their ground because they're so convicted, but they're not really sound, man. You surround yourself with a bunch of phony people, and pretty soon, man, like you're really unhappy. And I think that that's one of the big things when guys leave is we had this great community that kept us propped up, and when things kind of went south, we could be distracted with like, hey, we got this badass school for you to go do. And like, okay, like how many times did, like, not to bring stuff up, but how many times did those trips fall inside, like would coincide with relationships that were suffering, and like it's like, hey, oh no, but that's the conversation in the community I think that needs to change, is like what we're having, not to undermine someone's masculinity. Man, if we're still trying to sit here and go, stop being a pussy, then what are we doing, man? Like, didn't we just do all of that stuff to prove that little child in ourselves was like, we're tough, man. We got it. I'm not questioning that. I'm also not questioning your will. I thought we figured that out too. Like, but super high performers, like you're falling apart. And I think that's where like I look at it, and that's where my passion comes from, is that the guys inside doing the work. I mean, there's not a law. There's not. We pretend that there are, but society does not differentiate between a bud student, a SEAL Team 6 operator. They're all the same. We're not. Okay, and that's not a standpoint of like we're better. What it means is some of us have made a choice to take on more. That's it. And with more comes definitely a responsibility to go, hey, I chose the more.
Yep.
But I also really wasn't super aware of how to unpack this stuff. And we do a really good job of it sometimes, unless we drop our creativity. I came into the teams being able to draw all these music and all these things, and I got rid of all that stuff because I was like, man, that's going to distract me from being this war fighter.
Yep.
But I realized I was putting things down that were very creative to me, and that's where I could have put work down for a minute, gotten some reprieve from it, and then jump right back on that war horse. But I didn't know that wouldn't have made me a coward. Like I really had these thoughts. I'm sure at some point it's just like, man, like what more do I have to do to prove myself? But that's the system as well. And it's almost like, okay, the other balance is this, is the other shoulder angel goes, it needs to be that way. And you're like, you're right. And thank God we have those driven men and women. And thank God, and thank God, and thank God. Pretty soon, this godly creature is going to break down, though. We got to find a place to put that heaviness. And that's where I had a good upbringing. I had a very healthy upbringing, and that was a good foundation. But I still, traditional means, I wasn't able to kind of put it down with just prayer and just this and just that, and it took the right people, and that's really, for me, it's my therapy now is giving back to people. And when I can teach people how to do push-ups all day, but when I see someone struggling, and I feel like just honestly someone could come up to him and go, hey man, all of this work you're doing, it's worth it, and so are you are worth it. And it just would have been nice to have that sometimes, because I was like, I got it, but like, no, like, listen, man, like for real, like what you are doing is commendable. Keep doing it. Just something like that. Like I just never learned to take any sort of grace from anyone. And when it was time for me to ask for help, I didn't know how.
So true. So true. I mean, men, I say men, they don't know how to ask for help. And so many men haven't heard that, they don't hear it. I was, I'll retell one quick story. I was having a messenger conversation with a former unit guy, and it was a quick conversation. You know how like men communicate pretty much on task focused things. And I've tried to sign off. Hey man, if you ever need anything, reach out. And something clicked in my brain, Jeff. 30 seconds later, and I started typing. Said, "Holy shit! I'm so sorry. You literally are reaching out. What can I do?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
And up until that 30 seconds, the rest of my life, I would never have noticed that thing. So communication is key, but it's both be able to hear the message that someone's saying and then also knowing how to ask for it. It was really interesting.
yeah. Like and then that's the thing is I also didn't, what comes with like this was always me. Like I was always didn't realize I had this ability as well. I was good at taking direction, not good at communicating.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big
So
difference.
just like, and I didn't know that. I was like, because in my head, I was like, man, you give me a manual and give me instructions, I'll learn it, man. And if it's a competition, I'll learn it faster. And if there's a reward on the end of it, I'll do it. Like, that was like my mindset, right?
Yeah.
And so in my head, it's like because I was such a consumer of information, I thought, well, of course I'm a good communicator. And that certainly was not the case. I'm well read. I'm extremely well read, but I just man, I feel like I finally learned how to communicate with people at 36, and now I'm 45. So better late
Yeah.
than never, I suppose.
I would like to get the direction for the last two sort of questions that have stemmed from that. The what's it like being a Navy SEAL? That was a stunning answer from you, but I'd like you to please paint a picture of what a Navy SEAL does day to day. Again, so much unknown out there. So not operationally, not when you overseas doing missions, but let's paint that picture for the people out there. What does a Navy SEAL do every day?
Well, kind of that's kind of where there's like a big differentiation, in my opinion, right? So not all of us are created equal in the job task at all. Like there's definitely a very much a pecking order, right? Like I'll make this analogy again, like the All Blacks.
Yeah,
I'm certainly in the country of New Zealand, like they're the winningest sports franchise in the history of modern sport, as far as I understand, right? So um, I'm certain that there's other rugby clubs in like a minor type setting that you have to work through to achieve to eventually maybe get to the All Blacks. Am I assuming is that correct? Right?
ab absolutely correct.
Right. So let's say down that line, a couple notches down from the All Blacks and that level of rugby, there's some good rugby developmental leagues. But would any of those developmental league players or any of the staff go, we're just as good as the All Blacks. We do the same thing, all that, right? Like, hell no. And if you do, you should be made out to be a buffoon. That is what you see here in America.
Right.
Is you see this grandstanding of people that didn't have my perspective, right?
Yeah.
My experience as a Navy SEAL on a daily basis was practicing for hours a day for a period of months, CQB, hours every day. Not Saturday, Sundays, typically. Most of the time, it was not my hometown, right? I averaged 306 days gone for 11 years. That was
Wow.
my average time. So I was gone a lot. I averaged about 6.7 years of my life on deployment. In a combat zone, not in, all of these in combat zones. So like my life wasn't running on the beaches with my shirt off and hanging out in San Diego, Virginia Beach.
Yeah.
Spent so much of my time shooting in real time and in training. Skydiving, 4 months of my year was skydiving. 4 months of my year was that's what we did all the time. 4 months of my year, I was training all the hostage rescue teams from all over the world. The SAS, SBS would come in and train with us. FBI, you name it, every unit in the world would come to us and we work with them. Right? That's what the whole world global, like that's how you and I can have these conversations and openly, because our partners, our friends, our brothers intermingled freely across state lines,
Yeah.
right? so some of us, the group that I was at, I had nothing but training. That's all I did all the time. Like lived it. Like, and even when I was in the United States, probably 60 to 70% of all of our training was still at night. I slept during the day and worked at night all over the country, right? And I lived it in vampire hours for about 8 years, man. Like I was just the days. And so my daily life was, if I wasn't shooting, I was skydiving. If I wasn't doing one of those two, I was building and detonating demo, right? Or I was torch cutting. I was diving on ships. Like that's what I did on a daily basis, right? Like I was tired. I was really tired, and I never saw my family. So glorious as some people may have made it be, mine was violent. It was dirty, and it was, man, I have more stories than I can even begin. Like, and it just baffles me to how like the world is so snowed over by the fancy shirtless Navy SEAL running on the beach, man. Like that is not the life I had, man. A lot of fucking death. That's what I saw.
Man, that's cool. That's a great answer to really paint that picture. Um, thank you. Now, the thing I'd like to close on and have a conversation about is what is it like over at Performance First? What is that about? What's it like if I just poke my head in through the door? What do I see? What is the philosophy? What's it like over there? And what's Performance First about?
Yeah, I guess first and foremost, kind of like, the
Which I'm
group.
sorry, by the way, amazing name, Performance
Oh,
First.
thank you. I guess, yeah, there's a story behind that too, but like a good one. Like I had a gym before, and I sold my half of it, and I was just kind of frustrated with like how things went and what I want. My business partner, he had a real passion for another side of training, and I wanted to work with the guys going in. He wanted to work with guys coming out. It's like both of us really wanted to help, so we went different ways. And I'm just stewing in the front yard, just like mowing mad. I'm just like, I just want to train a bunch of people. Want just perform people that want performance first, and just boom, idea. And then so what's it like? So thank you. Yeah, it's simple. It kind of rolls off the tongue, but it really is it's not a cliche. Like within our scope of expertise, that's the only thing. Like we're only concerned with what's not what's good, what's actually truly optimal from the standpoint of like, and again, it's like, I really mean that. And this is what I mean specifically. So in the SEAL team, when I was SEAL Team 6, we had the best guns in the world. We had the best parachutes in the world. I had, at any given time, I had a $47,000 pair of night vision hanging off my face. Like really, I was the night vision rep, so I knew the prices, right? I had $4 million electronic optics just assigned to me. My point is like, we didn't skimp on anything. Nothing. We didn't skimp. But the reliance on our willingness and our durability and our willingness to just rely on that mere effort, as we know, war in life isn't getting simpler. War isn't getting easier. But yet some of the ways in which we improve the human in society of sport, which we're privy to, and it's easy for us to be armchair quarterback, so to speak, and be the armchair judge. But the physical preparation, the recovery, the down regulation, just because there's psychiatrists, and come on, man, like that. My high school, which still doesn't pop out class, graduate classes more than 100. We're talking dirt road Iowa here, middle America. They have a higher, basically, there's a more advanced sort of training facilities at my high school than the teams have here. It's ridiculous. Right. And it's like and it's not because the team guys, let me say this, like, it's not the team guys, it's not the operators, it's not them making these decisions. So this is not a slight towards them. The fact that the people I know in your country, and I certainly know in Australia, the staffing by government employees in those facilities is criminal. So because I love the people that are going in, and they're going to get the, it's funny that, the problem is if you get bad shooters, everyone dies. They like stuff like rules get written in blood. So they're like, well, we don't skimp on all. We have the best skydivers in the world teach us, the best shooters in the world teach us. We get that, but like, why don't we have the best physios in the world keeping us? We could go down that rabbit hole all day, but the point is it doesn't exist even at SEAL Team 6. It does not exist. Well, I'm not going to phrase that. It exists at a much higher level there, a development and understanding, but they're just so overtaxed, man.
Yeah.
Freaking tired. So on the white side teams, right? SEAL Team 1, 3, 5, 7, 2, 4, 8, and 10, right? Those we call the white side teams. Those are like the those are the minor leagues. Not that they're bad people. It's not a slight at them, but they are not us. They are not the same. And if they're offended by that, that's tough shit. Because that's just not how this works, okay? SEAL Team 2 didn't go after Bin Laden, okay? So there's a reason why 6 did, okay? So that being said, right, there's a real high demand not being met by the standpoint of recovery. It's not, right? And it's not because they don't want to, it's just because that knowledge base is not being given like it is in sport. So what is performance first? Performance first is all of those real performance. We are not a basic place. Let's be super. Now that's not that basic is bad. We are just not that. There is a real sense of performance oriented sort of goal. Everything that we do, from sleep, we pull blood, we do all sorts of stuff from these guys that we can do. Like we don't like to, that's what we recommend. That's like, we're going to get into their blood work and say,
Yep.
this is what we, with our help of our physicians and are these things, like we're really concerned with, like, the All Blacks are well informed of their physical preparation, all their physical, like they're well-oiled machines. The funding that the All Blacks get is minuscule in the sense of basically the special operators communities get. Like, it's like, where, okay, got it, we got bullets, body arms, and guns, but like, yeah, but the humans are the ones wearing and using all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's the last thing being serviced. So we are the thing that I tell people, we don't train people like Navy SEALs. We do not. We train people like Navy SEALs should be taught and trained. That's what we do.
Wow.
All the gaps that have been missing, because before I was an exercise physiologist before I came into the Navy. I was a strength coach and I managed 14 varsity sports at a Division I university. I did it. I did the job of a physio before I even came into the Navy. And I saw it with this big, like, whoa, like the best guns in the world, but like our gym is like rusted over and like it's just crazy. So
Yeah.
the men and the women that go do the jobs that we did, there's no one on this planet more deserving of what sport and most universities take for granted. A real experience of how to take care of themselves, how to train, how to sleep, and all the whys. The why. We will service your why. To a conclusion, not to appease my ego or some sort of way of doing things. We only deal in physics and physiology. And if I can't explain it, we will find somebody that can do a better job than me. Because that's why we do this. Because I wouldn't do this if I thought there was somebody on this planet doing a better job than me.
And man, it's unreal how it's down to the operator. And you and I know how that works. You know, you are the night vision rep and all these things. It's always down to that person. And if now a friend, but a former guest, Pat McNamara from Delta, he was the same. He realized that the strength and conditioning, that wasn't even called that, PT, it was probably called back then, wasn't hitting the marks. So he went out and he got some top American football coaches, strength and conditioning coaches, along to totally revamp things. The unarmed combat wasn't hitting the mark, so he brought Tony Blauer in
Right?
to fix things up. Um, it's yeah, it is the
I think that
human that
that's the plan, is like it's the system itself feeds and should,
yeah,
because like that, why did he want it? Why he's so passionate about it? Because he no matter what anyone ever wants to say about him or me or anyone else, we have the actual perspective.
yeah,
We actually lived it. we actually can say, hey man, if I'm not ego driven, and that's still that happens, yes, at times, but like if I'm not ego driven, then it's not about right or wrong either. It's like, no, 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 no. I did experience in this, and I would rather you guys be more prepared.
Yep.
That's all
Exactly.
I ever saw in Pat in that sense. You're like, yeah, man, like he just saw it 10 years before I did. And he had to endure much lesser conditions than I did. Not because it was dealt, it's just prior to me a bit, right? And
Yep.
so guys that are in now, yes, there's been some lessons learned, but I'm still like banging my head against the door because you're like, I was yelling and screaming about some of this stuff 10 years ago. And they're like, because we have real active duty SEALs and EOD and SWIC come to our gym. That's like, it's not open to the public. Like no one comes in. It doesn't have hours. It's only like operators. Like I don't know if there's anything else, like, because we're fortunate our business is online and some other things too, but like in our classes, but
Yep.
that's who we service. And so we get to ask them and audit them and what's going on, not tactics. Like that's no.
No.
How are you taking care of yourself?
Yep.
How are you sleeping? How like what a weird question. How is you and your spouse?
Yep.
Like stuff like I who'd have thought I'd be asking somebody that and actually mean it. But that's also a little bit of maturity. So anyways, that's kind of that's I get long winded about that stuff, but it just comes from a point of passion.
It does, and we are passionate for sure. I mean, Kirk Parsley, we said talked about Dr. Kirk Parsley before, going back into the SEALs. He went in to become their sports, like an orthopedic
Yeah, he
doctor,
was a
and
he was a he was the senior medical officer for Warcom, which is like so. Kirk and I go quite a ways back actually. So in the United States, there's a bunch of different there's kind of different commands. One is more tactical control. One is more administrative control. Administrative definitely falls in medical and stuff. So that is called Warcom. It's an acronym. I forget what it is, but Kirk Parsley was a senior medical officer for basically all the Navy SEALs on basically across the board, really under Warcom. But he was stationed on the West Coast, and he was one of those guys that like these are my words, not his.
yeah,
Him leaving the Navy was based really like the Navy was threatened by him. He's such a good man, and he was so proactively helping guys with their real problems. It
yes,
became a problem. Like he was threatening because he's so non-traditional, which is great. Like he he's a very special human being, and I have a ton of respect for Kirk Parsley, man. Like he's as good a human as they get. Yep.
I 100% guarantee, and I'm proud to call him a friend. Um, and yeah, for him to go back in there and then transition to the sleep side of things, and then literally helping out these awesome operators with their life. Um, it has to come from within because the government agency, the Navy, DOD, whatever you guys call it there, that's not humans. That's an entity, and
Right.
it's gonna be there once the operator leaves, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, and he's like, so here's a story about Kirk Parsley, man. Like one of my team leaders, one of my troop chiefs, team leaders. That man, I looked up. He is a bad mother effer, right, man. One of those dudes you look back, ooh, that's a dude, man. That's one of the guys you don't like. I can hold my own, but not as he was He-Man.
Yep.
He was frightening human being, and I saw him in that manner. And he took a position. And he went out the West Coast to be the Master Chief of Buds. And next time I saw him, man, he was low. And Kirk Parsley makes mention of this guy. In some of his ads, kind of picking up. So he was one. That dude was real, man. That was a war fighter that he's talking about. He is one of the gnarliest dudes I've ever been around. So that guy got low. I've been, now I could see it in him. He was in my other gym. He came in there, and I was like, that dude's a dead man walking, man.
Yeah.
Like you can just fast forward, like a couple of days later, such situation that transpired. What Kirk said took him down to Mexico,
Oh
brought
wow.
him back to our facility. I can only say it this way: it offended me. Kirk took that man's life, that demon that I like, that I revere, that man that just he cracked that man open and had that same human being but with a smile on his face. I was like, whoa, what'd you do? Like, I despise Kirk Parsley for that. I thought he totally lobotomized my friend, right? Fast forward 10 years, I do that exact same treatment, the same place.
Wow.
Right. And then 6 or 7 months later, I fly to Austin to see our physicians. Kirk Parsley's in the office. We were like, whoa, like, man, there's no coincidence in this world, and that man, and it's not just me, like Kirk, when this is the thing that people don't understand. When people say, and I'm saying this literal, when Kirk Parsley saved lives, literally, physically put people on planes and saved their lives. Like, he's a hero, like, for real, So that's Dr. Parsley.
Man, I hardly ever know how shows are going to go. I purposely don't get to know someone too much before a show because it organically happens here. And the things that come out are unreal. Same with you, Jeff. Gosh, I mean, from your background and then the things you're saying. And then Kirk, he posted a video just the other day on Instagram, so fully public, and the wife of a SEAL rang him crying for help because her husband had all these logical reasons to end his life that day, literally that day, and Kirk went round there and he's talking to the guy. He's his best friend. That's the other side of it. There's Kirk's buddy for decades. And you see the Kirk's face. He's like, "Yeah, I hear all your reasons, but we don't want you to do that."
Right,
And
right.
then literally, like you said, throw him on a plane
That was
and
him. Yeah, that was my, yeah. So
gosh,
yeah, it's an interesting thing because, you, like him, him in particular, you hear people's reputation, like you do. Like, I'm sure I have a reputation depending on who you ask, and it is probably true, right? If I was an asshole, it's probably true, kind of in this sense. But if I was a good guy, also possible, right? But with Kirk, you only hear one thing, really, and it's either in that reference, the man saved my husband's life, or that man saved my life. That's the context you hear him in.
wow,
That's it. That's
uh,
his reputation.
amazing
It's a good one to have. Yeah.
yeah. And it's those two questions. What does it take to become a Navy SEAL, and what is it like being a Navy SEAL? That was the only angles I had on this whole show. It's a summary because we are saving lives. We're there to. You said we're there to serve. Sergeant Major of the New Zealand Army, former NZ SAS RSM. He's there to serve, and it's serving others, and be that our teammates, helping them out and saving their lives, be it how crazy is this? What what other job do you roll into a house or a building with people going to shoot back at you? Are you going to give your life to save an unknown hostage? You don't know that person from at all, and you're going in
Not
there to
even
save
once.
their
It's
lives.
You say it out loud, it sounds right. It sounds crazy, like, for real. And but I think that's. Let me ask you this: is there something that really relative of your life you currently, like, you have a bit of a phobia for, that in the job you're like, I was only able to really do it quite well because it was the job. Like, for me, man, like, keep me away from ladders, man. I've been shot off too many ladders, like, literally, like RPGs and bullets. Like, I have a real phobia of ladders, but I've got hundreds of skydives. That doesn't bother me at all, heights. But, like, I literally can't stand, like, in a one-story building without being like, whoa, yeah, weird.
Uh,
So accept it.
yeah, yeah, totally. Gosh, it's been amazing talking with you, Jeff, and just beautiful to see what you sort of said sort of halfway through. You've got more smiles than you have frowns looking back on things. It's really beautiful to see that. And I don't say that lightly, because that's what it takes. You've got to come out the other side, that transitioning away from the person you had to be, and that self-growth into a person that can show that love, patience, and kindness, and keep that Hulk where it's supposed to be, and bring him out when you need to.
Right.
Um, yeah, gosh, I love what you do. And this has been one of the most amazing interviews with an SF guy for sure. And I'm sure that the listeners have got a very different take on things than, either the SEAL running on the beach or the operator in body armor and smashing it in the sandbox. Like I said at the start, you got the whole show notes that I narrate. But at this stage, where's the best place to find and come to you?
Yeah,
Where's the
so
best place for
Instagram, I don't hold a lot of social media platforms just because I don't have the patience, quite frankly. Um, my wife is amazing, but social media, Instagram is the best place. I'm pretty active on that throughout the morning hours. And my handle is Jeff CSCS. It's an acronym here in the United States of Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist. It is an old reference. I figured why change it, and people, that's how they know me.
Sure.
Um, I have a subscriber side, and I'm very active on that. But this is not a plug. Like we've got enough. We're awesome. We love the support we get, and we've got great people. But I meter my effort. I do. If you have skin in the game, you've got my time, and that's kind of how it works. I'm a big comic book fan, big fan of the Joker and Batman, and the Joker's. You're good at something, don't do it for free. So we do not. Not like, and again, it's no offense to frugality, but we give all of our time and that effort to the people that have skin in the game because they deserve it. Like I can, I love truly. Like I have a real kind of love for the sport of rugby and the All Blacks. And just because of my time in Australia and places out there that I've gotten to like really be around it. And I guess it's just fortunate, in that sense that this brings us all together. We get to spend some time, and yeah, I appreciate all the support that we get. But it's easy. I'm easy to find on social media, and that's about
Cool.
all I'm active on.
And of course, you at performancefirst.us.com as well.
Yeah, I gloss over that. Like all my social media takes me to the website, but the programs we sell and kind of the information we put out that is for sale, whether it's in-person training, whatever it is on our website, but all that really gets directed to our social media and everything. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That's why I'm not the business manager, because you just kind of my wife puts me in front of the camera and says like, this wonderful gentleman, Damien from New Zealand, is going to have a conversation with you. And she just points me in this direction. So that's kind of how that's always who's behind the camera on our social media. Like she is the boss. She's my anchor, Catherine. I love her. None of this, honestly, none of this could be possible without her. And here's my challenge to everybody. Honestly, like my experience in the community, soft community, I know it's worldwide. I'm certain of it. I've experienced really amazing dads. I've experienced really amazing everything in that sense of fatherhood. I've experienced. I've seen it. Not just me. I'm saying not patting myself on the back. I'm saying the operators, a lot of good dads. Sometimes we're not super good at expressing fatherhood at times, but it's really like these guys love. That's how also I know, and also that's why I know sometimes the volatility in our relationships can be so volatile, man. Because when we don't know how to love as hard as we can. And so my challenge is try to find that point of communication with your spouse, because your spouse you do love, you may not know how to communicate, man. They do want what's best for you, and you don't have to tell them the gruesome shit, but they can hold some of that weight. If you just tell them you're hurting, you tell them I just need, man, I don't know, this just job is fucking hard, and God, whatever. You don't have to be. That's enough for them because they just want to be included. Do not exclude your family. All right. So I challenge you to be good communicators with your wives and spouses and girlfriends, because I've seen love and I've seen crazy love and trauma like with us as fathers, but we just sometimes can't express that to our wives. So that's my challenge, people. Be the best in the world at everything you do, and also add to that, be the best husband that you can do. That's the challenge. And that's where I try to do is like I'll fail all the time, but man, that's the one thing in my life right now is like I'm gonna fucking go to my grave trying to be the best husband I can be. That's
Wow.
my goal.
Where did you figure out how to drop all these bombs, man? I mean, I have interviewed a lot of people. That I interviewed the All Blacks coach the other day, Steve Hansen. one of the greatest coaches of all time. And man, you just keep dropping these bombs.
Yeah, no, we'll do a second one. That's easy. Like I don't pretend to have any sort of secret words, but I just
Yeah,
through my life, I can the job. Like I've some for some reason I've been able to learn vocabulary to my experiences a little bit better than some. So
yeah.
that's all it is. I not that other people don't have these experiences. I've had through the grace of God and good people, I've been able to formulate words to how I'm feeling. As weird as that might sound, I practice that through therapy and whatnot. So that's it. Yeah.
Man, I often sum up a show. I say if one person's heard one thing that's helped them, we've sort of done our job. But I can clearly say, and I'm quite stunned to be honest. There's things that you've said, Jeff, that across all humans. This isn't a war show, a veterans show, and so on, but things that you've said that can help any human in just about any parts of their life. So I just want to sincerely say thank you for coming on, and thank you more importantly for sharing your experience, and I'll call that wisdom now, because that's things that other people can learn from, that'll it'll help them out. So thank you so much for what you're doing, for coming on.
My pleasure. Yeah, it's good. I appreciate being able to talk to somebody that's been there, that's served in that sense too. So I thank you for your service, and I appreciate you doing this service is at the very least connecting us. So thank you so much as well.
Hey man, I'll hit pause. We'll have a quick chat after, and yeah, thank you again. Cheers, Jeff.
You bet.
Hi, thanks for watching. I'm Damien Porter, former Special Forces operator, and check out my new project for 2023 at hownottodie.com.au, where I've combined all my Special Forces training and police officer experience to help others. Thanks for watching.